What's up guys? So in this video we're going to talk about how to put yourself on the path to become a millionaire in 2023. And this isn't one of those videos where, hey, like if you want to get rich quick and throw your money into some shit crypto coin and have it go to the moon. This is not what we're going to be talking about today. What we're going to be talking about is a process of building wealth that have helped myself, people like Tanner over here who has a $50 million net worth before the age of 30, and how they think about building wealth differently from the average person. So we're going to get right into it. Be sure to like and subscribe if you like content like this. We'll dive right into it. The concept that I'm going to be sharing with you today, I call it the wealth equation. It's obviously just a cheesy name for a process of creating wealth by taking advantage of things that are in today's economy that the average person hasn't thought about. And what that equation is essentially your income minus your expenses times the amount of time you have. So you want your income to be a lot more than your expenses and you want to have a lot of time. And obviously that sounds really, really simple, but most people, they focus on all the wrong parts of this equation. And that's one of the reasons why you see such a widening wealth gap in today's world, in the country today, is because there's certain people that have figured out how to take advantage of this equation, but most people have not. And I'm going to share with you how you can do that today. And for me, it was a process that took me from literally having less than $3,000 in my bank account half a dozen years ago to being worth a few $1,000,000 today. I'm going to break it down with you. So when you think about what most people do, they spend their entire lives only really focusing on the expense side of that equation. So they have a certain amount of income that's generally capped at a certain level, and in order to build wealth, what they do is they try to limit those expenses as much as possible. Any kind of extra savings that they have in there, any kind of little gap that they've created, they dump into stuff like 401ks, IRAs, retirement accounts, to ultimately be able to recreate that same gap by the time they're 60 plus years old. And the problem with this approach is it's basically just trading one gap for your time back when you get into retirement. You're not actually creating more time sooner than that, and you're not actually expanding the size of your gap to give yourself more opportunity. So what ends up happening is people work 30, 40 years doing a 9-to-5 type job, and they essentially just replace the same income they had and get their time back by the time they're 65. And for most people, myself included, that's not really what financial freedom sounds like. Freedom to me sounds like having a lot more opportunity, a lot more flexibility to choose when I work, how I work, and what I can spend money on, and to have that happen as soon as possible. But how do you actually do that? How do you flip that equation around and start building wealth faster by focusing on different things? Well, when you think about it, if you approach this a little bit differently, you should be focusing on, first and foremost, the income side of that equation. That's the side of the equation that can open up the most opportunity in the fastest way possible. Most people don't do this. They only think about how to manage their expenses, and they never create a large enough gap to create any kind of freedom earlier in life. But if instead you focused on the income side of that equation, so how can I increase my income as much as possible, as soon as possible, then all of a sudden the game starts changing for you. That gap gets much larger and it opens up more opportunity for you. I would actually argue, and obviously this is my opinion, but it's my opinion based on my own personal experiences and the connections I've been able to make with other millionaires that are a little bit younger, right? I'm not talking about the guy with $2 million and he's 70 years old. I'm talking about the person like Tanner with a $50 million net worth and he's 30, okay? What they did was they focused on the income side of their equation, and rather than dumping their extra money into retirement accounts, 401ks, all that stuff that everybody else does, what they focused on was learning skills that allowed them to increase their income as quickly as possible. And I'm going to give you an idea of what some of those skills could be, but I would argue that even before you start dumping all your money into investment accounts and retirement accounts and all that stuff, if you really want financial freedom earlier in life, improving your income is the fastest way to get there. And there's a few different ways you can do that. You can, number one, you can start a business. Starting a business has a very high ceiling in terms of the income that you're able to create. One of the reasons that I run Nextdoor Trader is because it creates a much larger ceiling for my income than trading alone does. So because of that much larger ceiling, I'm able to widen that gap a lot faster, and that allows me to not only have more opportunity, but really make an impact, be able to give back. I'm working on charitable causes right now that are important to me. Like one of the things that I want to do personally is fund different education programs for high school seniors to help them learn some of this stuff as well. But the point is focusing on that income side of the equation. A business can help you get there. Now, the downside to a business is obviously it's not easy, right? It takes a tremendous amount of time, energy, and effort to have a successful business that's actually going to have the amount of margin, the amount of profit you need to really make good money in exchange for the time that you're putting into it. So it's a high time, high work type activity with a really high income ceiling. And that may not be for everybody, especially if you're already working a 9-to-5 job and you don't have the time to commit to it. That's one skill though that you could invest in learning, how to build a business. Another skill you could invest in learning is some kind of sales type skill. This is essentially what my brother Ryan did. He used to work as a bar manager. His income was very capped, right? Like you're not gonna make a ton of money doing that. There's only so much you can make, especially in Little Saginaw, Michigan. But for him, he learned how to close deals over the phone. That was the skill that he learned, and basically 10x'd his income by being able to do that. So learning sales skills, it could be closing deals over the phone, it could be some kind of affiliate type marketing, is another skill that you can invest in to increase your income potential. And it's another skill that you can do from home, which I think is important in today's economy. Now again, that's another one of those skills where if you don't like sales, your personality doesn't fit that, then it's probably not the skill that you want to pursue, which is why there's a third option. Trading can be a third skill that you can learn in order to increase your income potential. Again, it's something that you can do from home. It's something that you can take money you already have, or what our students do is take money that other people give them and be able to create extra income from it without having to spend a ton more time. So it's another skill that you can invest in learning in order to increase your income potential. And that's essentially how it started for me. I used trading as the first skill to increase the gap between my income and expenses. And that's, in my opinion, the very first thing you should focus on if you want to create more financial freedom earlier in life. There's a reason that guys like Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, some of the really wealthy dudes that, even people like Tanner and some of the other people in my network, not only do they not dump money religiously into 401ks, retirement accounts, they don't even have them because it's not an important factor in their wealth building plan. Because to them, it's about creating financial freedom earlier in life, and you don't need retirement accounts to do that, despite what the news and the government and whatever else wants you to believe. Okay, it's a choice. Don't have to take that path, but if you do, I think you can find a lot of rewards to doing that. So step number one is you look at investing in a skill that can increase your income potential. Now, once you have that gap, so you've created a larger gap between your income and expenses, this is when you can start working on step two, which is funneling that extra income into assets that are more passive. This is when you start creating the passive income part and getting your time back, okay? I look at trading like an income producing skill, not like a passive asset, which is why most of my trading income goes into other assets that don't take me time to be able to pull income off of. And that's how you get the time part back of that equation. You're essentially taking that gap, funneling it into assets that can give you your time back, and then use that income to create the freedom that you need. Okay, so that's step two, is you funnel it into passive assets. What passive assets do you use? In my opinion, you should focus on things that you understand and that you have experience around. So Tanner, as an example, he likes to focus on things like real estate and whole life insurance. It's not for everybody. That's the approach that works for him. Essentially, think of it more like a barbell type strategy, where you hold very, very little in savings, but spread all the income that you have into a couple different assets that you understand. So for Tanner, it's real estate and life insurance. For me, my barbell looks like stock portfolio over here and US Treasuries over here. And we'll explain that a little bit and why I do things that way. But if you think about spreading your income out that way, I have my stock portfolio over here. Literally 50% of that extra income goes to my stock portfolio. And when I say stock portfolio, I mean something like a non-qualified brokerage account. So not a retirement account, not an IRA, not even a Roth IRA, money that's liquid and I can access anytime. The advantages to that are now I have liquid capital. I don't have to wait to use that money. I don't even have to use it if I don't want to. It's going to continue to compound and appreciate over the next decade, 2 decades, 5 decades if I want it to. And if I never sell anything in there, I don't actually have to pay any taxes on it. It'll continue to appreciate without me paying tax until I actually sell something because I want to use it for income or some other purpose. If I were to kick the bucket, my heirs actually get that money without paying taxes on it as well. At least that's the way that rules are written right now. So it's a tremendous tool for me to be able to use to create that passive income if I wanted it to. Now the other side of my barbell is US Treasuries. US Treasuries probably aren't for anyone. They're not something that's super sexy. They're very, very safe. So think like 4.5% per year is kind of what I'm getting at out of that. If your gap is large enough, safety starts becoming more important. And the reason I have so much money in US Treasuries, or I'm funneling so much money into US Treasuries, is I look at it like an opportunity bucket for me. Right now, my experience is around trading as an income skill and my stock portfolio over here. The other end of that barbell, I don't have something that I really have a ton of expertise in yet. So it could end up being real estate down the road. It could end up being another business opportunity. But right now, I don't know what that bucket is, so I want to keep it safe and ready, and US Treasuries allow me to do that. And the advantage of something like US Treasuries over just a savings account where most people funnel their safe dollars is it pays you way more over here. What do you think the banks are doing with your money? They're taking your money, they're giving you like a 0.1 or 1% interest rate on it, and then they're going and investing in US Treasuries and earning 4 or 5% on it. I'm just cutting out the middleman and putting my money into those treasuries. I can still access it pretty much anytime. It's actually safer than the money that you would put in a bank savings account because the odds of the US government going bankrupt are a lot lower than the odds of a bank going bankrupt. That's happened before. The US government hasn't gone bankrupt before. So basically what I've created is a large gap between my income and expenses, and then a method of funneling that gap into assets that are passive in nature. So I have my stock portfolio over here, 50% goes there. I have US Treasuries over here, completely safe, completely liquid, and gives me an opportunity vehicle that I can use later on. And the advantage of both of those things together is you can create a lot more financial freedom. I can use either one of these buckets to pay my bills, take a trip, do whatever I want with it. I can do that anytime. I don't have to wait to access it. And because my gap is so large, I can do that today. I don't have to wait till age 60. You're able to actually create that financial freedom earlier. So what I want you to think about from this video is how are you creating wealth now? Are you doing it just like everybody else? And the question I would ask yourself is, does that actually make sense to you based on your goals? Is that really what you want? Because that's the path that you're on. Think about the path that you want to be on and how you can create that path and start taking action on it today. If you guys like content like this, be sure to like, subscribe. Let me know what you want to learn about next. We'll cover it together, and we'll see you on the next one.